In this module, we'll be discussing the Constitution and U.S. laws. These are big topics, and they may seem overwhelming, but we are here to help. We'll start with a brief overview of the Constitution, including a focus on the Bill of Rights. We'll also learn the key principle to understand that will help you see where we have come from and where we are going as a nation. Let's start with the Constitution. The Constitution was written in 1787. It defines the fundamental law of the U.S. federal government. It specifically lists all the powers of the national government, divides power between the national and state governments, describes our democracy as a government in which people elect their leaders, and it describes a system of checks and balances where each branch can check on the other two, so no branch gets too powerful. The Constitution was written and signed by 55 white men. The laws were originally written to give power to white men with property only. For example, a person of color counted as 3/5 of a person. This initial desire to keep people of color excluded has taken all of our history to try to undo. We still have a ways to go, and it's still very visible today as the legacy of white privilege. Amendments were made to clarify that all citizens had certain rights. This all started with the Bill of Rights. In the beginning, voters were considered to be just white men with property. The Bill of Rights were the first 10 amendments to the Constitution that clarified that all citizens had certain rights. The First Amendment, the right to freedom of speech, religion, the press, and assembly. Second, the right to bear arms. Third, no quartering of troops. Fourth, freedom from unreasonable search and seizure. Fifth, protects citizens who are being accused of a crime, innocent until proven guilty. Sixth, the right to a fair and speedy trial. Seventh, right to a trial by jury. Eighth, protects from cruel and unusual punishment. Ninth, protects rights that are not listed in the Constitution. And the 10th Amendment, power not given to the federal government, belong to the states and the people. The 13th Amendment ended slavery, but the regressive forces could not accept this change and pushed back, so there was the need for the 14th Amendment that clarified that no state shall deny any person the equal protection of the law. When the regressive forces again pushed back, the 15th Amendment was needed to further clarify that the right to vote could not be denied on account of race or color. This amendment helped to open the door to the further expansion of rights to include women who finally got the right to vote in the 19th Amendment in 1919. But this did not happen without a very long struggle against the forces that wanted only men to have the power of the vote. This is a lot of information to take in, and it can seem overwhelming if you think you have to know all about the Constitution and all the U.S. laws. However, as a social activist and organizer, there is one key principle to understand, and this will help you to take the long view of where we have come from and where we are going as a nation. So what is this principle? It's really quite simple. It's the struggle between those who want to preserve power for just themselves and those who believe that all men and women are created equal and want to expand the power to include all people. If we look at the changes to our Constitution, we see this movement to include more and wider groups of people, so they are no longer invisible or marginalized. And we also can see the hand of the forces that want to push us backwards and keep power for themselves. This struggle has shaped our country from the beginning and will either allow us to make a more perfect union or will be our undoing as a nation. The 55 white men in powdered wigs who drew up the Constitution in 1787 in some ways are no different from those who draw up our laws today. They were imperfect with their own prejudices and political ambitions, just as our elected officials are today, minus the powdered wigs. What we as voters can do is always push for the founding ideals of our country, for freedom, fairness, and justice, in whatever legislation and with each lawmaker, and then organize to remove those who want to take us backwards. As we work to make sure that our actions are always based on freedom, fairness, and justice, and as we organize large groups of people to move in our positive direction, we will force the leaders to follow us. For more information about this topic, as well as other topics related to government and social change, please see our website, ruralorganizingcenter.org, or feel free to email any questions or comments to info@ruralorganizingcenter.org.